This is IsAware, powered by Intersoft Associates. IsAware is your connection to exploring the systems and software that power businesses like yours with expert insight, experience, and advice.
Welcome back to IsAware. I am Chris Ventliff, and I'm here as always with Hy Goldstoff and Abe Unger from Intersoft Associates. We're talking about all things custom software consultancy, custom software development, the things that help your business run more efficiently, more effectively. And today we're talking about QuickBooks, which is a good topic because as we're recording this, we've got about a month away until taxes are due for many people, and QuickBooks is probably top of mind for many. Let's talk a little bit about how you guys have experienced QuickBooks integrations at Intersoft Associates. What are some ways that companies come to you and are looking for QuickBooks to work better or more nicely with some other tool that is important to them?
People don't come to us generally to say they need QuickBooks integrated with anything. It's more a situation where, as we go through our consultative process, we determine that QuickBooks, doing manual entry into QuickBooks has a bunch of problems. One that comes to mind immediately is we had a client that had an issue. They wanted to revamp their entire ERP, which was in the cloud. They do shipping, and they do shipping both domestically and internationally. And the way they operate, and they want to make a whole bunch of changes to their software. And in further conversations with them, we found out that QuickBooks was really a huge impediment to scaling. They had people entering data manually into QuickBooks because their client-facing system, which produced invoices, didn't enter the data into QuickBooks. So they had clerical people, and some of them probably doing two things, entering this data into QuickBooks. So we identified early on that this was a huge impediment to scaling. If you double your transactions, you're going to have to double your staff, and that's not really manageable in today's world. And of course, all the other problems with transcription errors, having two versions of the truth, all the other problems that come along with that kind of a process. And by implementing that, and then putting the hooks into their customer-facing system, they were able to grow dramatically with no increase in that staff. So they really didn't ask us to do it. We found that it is important for them to do it.
Now that's interesting. Abe, is that typical? So we talked before about how it's talking about business outcomes and talking about what the problems that we're experiencing are that helps you guys realize, well, here's what the solution is that you need. So in this case, and maybe in others, QuickBooks wasn't top of mind for them, but as you got going and exploring this, you were able to realize, oh, well, we really need to pay some attention to QuickBooks. Is that typical?
No, absolutely. That's pretty much what happens in a number of other clients as well. The same kind of concept. We were integrating with a whole bunch of different systems doing some work, and we were talking about QuickBooks and pushing some data. And we were talking about credit card transactions, just the concept of pushing some credit card transactions to the QuickBooks, because again, their volume of credit card transactions went up, and someone entering all those individual transactions was a pain in the neck. And as I was saying, prone to error, you're transcribing, you're putting in numbers incorrectly, all these things. So we were like, all right, we can push some credit card transactions, and we can push that to QuickBooks. And from there, the conversation went, oh, well, we also do a lot of check requisitions. We need checks. We have to produce checks for the county or for be it other places, process servers or whatever that may be. And, oh, we can do that too. Once we're integrating with QuickBooks, we can go on to check requisitions, and then we can sync that with their systems so that the people who are not involved in the accounting department know whether a check was sent out, what the check number was it cleared or not, so that they can make decisions based on that without having to wait for someone in the accounting department. You have to call them up and say, hey, did this check go out? Was it there? They see it in their system because of that integration. So it naturally went from step to step to step, where it was like, yeah, all of this can be done programmatically. Why do any of this manually? There's other things that you can do that'll make your job easier. Why not do it? And this was just another benefit.
Yeah, there's another situation where staff requests a check, and we don't know, and we want to track the how well things are moving through the pipeline and through the process. And staff requests a check. Well, we don't know. The system doesn't know. Their ERP, their enterprise system, has no idea when the check was requested, and we have no idea when the next step should happen. We know that once a check is requested, the next step should happen within 10 to 14 days, but we had no way to track that. And what we simply did was put the request for the check into the system. It would then interface to QuickBooks, produce that check, and we know from the time that check is produced, we better see something within 2 weeks, let's say. And it made the staff accountable. They don't just ask for checks and it gets lost in a drawer somewhere. They know that they have to move this process along and provide that check and then provide the next step. So it allowed us to move a process along and be able to track that process much better than we can now. So it's always a way of understanding clients' issues, what their process is, and how we can move that process along. QuickBooks being one of the more popular tools that is fairly easy to automate. And and if it talks to any other system, if you can talk to other systems you use, it's a huge win in terms of data accuracy, in terms of scalability, in terms of eliminating waste.
It's interesting as you're sharing, and you mentioned ERP a couple times, and for listeners who might not know, ERP is enterprise resource planning, kind of the brains of a big operation where a lot of different pieces of information and data and technology can connect and talk to one another. But one of the things that, as you're sharing this stuff, guys, it makes me think again about some of our conversations where I don't need to know the problems I'm having or the solutions to them to know that something could be better. And so I think a lot of people don't know that that QuickBooks can be talking to other parts of my company and could be giving me way more information, or I could be, as you pointed out, simplifying steps or eliminating friction points or increasing efficiency. I just think I have to get used to something that is awkward or that I'm stubbing my toe every day with QuickBooks. I just think that's part of doing business with QuickBooks. It's only through having a conversation with you guys where I'm explaining my problems, you might help me understand there's a much simpler way if you just open your mind to this new possibility with QuickBooks. Is that for you one of the more energizing parts of this whole process when you're working with somebody and you realize, oh, you didn't know that we're about to save you. We're about to change your whole life.
Yeah,
always helping people in business, always.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the conversation and nothing more comes out of it other than some discovery and some planning as a result of that. But that smile that you get from somebody when you tell them that you can make their job easier and more accurate and do things that are better for them. What more can you ask for?
Who doesn't want that, right?
It's the same joy as giving a child a new toy. Oh my God, I have a new toy. And to them, it's saying, "Oh my God, I can really do this." I don't, it's the look on someone's face when they have the aha moment of what we can do for them. It's I really appreciate it. I really enjoy it. I think our whole staff does.
Yeah. What are some ways that the relationship starts to expand? So if you're helping me realize some of my potentials, and now we've created some integrations with QuickBooks and something else. As ever, the opportunities just reveal themselves. Well, now that we've done this, we can do that. And now that we've done that, we can do this. Do you have some illustrations or examples of where you were able to sort of really, build out on a system that made something really interesting or sophisticated or unique?
Well, this was that same story with that client. We started with something simple credit card transactions, nothing more, nothing less. And that ballooned. And, there's more opportunity. There's more that can be done in terms of reporting and reconciliations and bank reconciliations, that the system can do a lot more in an automated fashion now, rather than someone sitting there with, spreadsheets and, there's, green paper and sitting there line by line reading things and looking at these things and trying to match all these numbers. Now that we have the integration, the systems are talking to each other, a lot of that can be done automatically. So you sort of build on that one little conversation of focusing on one specific problem, and it just balloons out into other things. And that happens by that discussion, that conversation, that let's talk about business, let's talk about process, and understanding that there's more to it. It's not just taking a problem and solving it. It's not just order taking. It's understanding the process and actually thinking about it and understanding the business. And it's what we do.
Well, what we kind of like to do is become a trusted partner with our client. So it's really not a one and done. It's constantly looking at, and having conversations, and they trust us, and they, in some respects bear their souls to us, on a professional, level, certainly. And they just talk about things, and they run it by us. In some cases, we really can't do anything there. And in a good number of cases, we can do things, one of the things I like to tell people, especially, about one of our clients, we were able to help them grow by a factor of 10, but only add about 25% to staff, because we're able to, really, really scale their business and take it from, highly manual to automated, but still allow the personal touch, because we're able to give them everything they needed to know about a particular customer and their situation directly online. And it made things just run real smoothly. And that's a huge increase, from, making a good living to making a great living, to having a moderate impact to having a tremendous impact.
This conversation about QuickBooks is for me kind of tying a bow around some of the earlier conversations we've had. One around just a custom software development consultancy, the value of having somebody whose brain you can pick and whose expertise you can leverage, and where you can just sort of spill your guts, as you said, bear your soul high, and somebody else can start make sense of it. But also, we've talked about legacy software, outdated or sort of irrelevant software, and how, as we're talking about this, it's difficult to do some of the things we're talking about if you are running on really old software, or if the things that you're doing aren't connected. So in some ways, I'm starting to see just all of the sort of holistic points here, the relationships between what you guys do, how you do it, the problems that you encounter with your clients, the issues that they might be having that they don't even realize they have, and how all of that comes together for a more modern approach.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is real important is, people certainly, think they know their business well, and that may in fact be true. But we've gotten to know, scores and scores of businesses really well, and taking different problems and be able to adapt the solutions in one organization to that in another organization. So take some of the things we've done. It may not be the same, but they're certainly similar, and there aren't a large number of principles, in use here in order to, eliminate waste and improve processes. One client, the one that grew by more than 10, all of a sudden had a huge collection problem. They grew, they had to collect money, had a huge collection problem. Before that, it was manageable. Now, how do you deal with that, without increasing staff or as best you can? Well, 10 years before, we had done a collection management system for the New York Times. We had, managed their entire collection process in terms of, not so much, subscriptions, but advertising and large distributors. We automated that whole process, to how they contact them, how they call them, how they mail to them, and ultimately handing it over to a collection law firm. And we took a lot of those principles and adapted them to this particular business. So they kind of had, a plug and play. We had done it. We knew what had to be done. We were able to modernize it based on, some of the, the new technologies available that, weren't available 10 years previously, and adapt it to their particular needs. And their balances outstanding were over at a certain point in time were continuously less than half of their closest competitors in terms of size. So they were collecting money much, much more quickly and much, much more effectively without adding much to staff.
That's huge.
Yeah, but that's just because we have the experience across a whole bunch of industries. They never had any collection experience. They didn't know what's involved in doing a collection, and they would have made mistakes and learned as they went along. But we were able to accelerate that because we've already made the mistakes. We've worked with the client who's made the mistakes, and we solved it. And now we're just taking the good parts and throwing out, the ones that didn't work.
Yeah,
it's like starting with WD-40, not going from 1 through 39.
We've talked a lot about some piece of software talking to another one, or integrations and things like this. Next week, we're going to dive into some of the nuts and bolts of how that works. We're going to talk about APIs, which is Application Programming Interface. How does QuickBooks talk to something else? And I'm excited to dive into that. We'll get into a little more of the technical ways that some of these things are exciting and can happen. Guys, thanks for a really interesting conversation. I didn't know QuickBooks could be so fascinating. So thanks for that. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for IsAware, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. IsAware is powered by Intersoft Associates, who believes the more you know about your IT, the better. Visit us at intersoftassociates.com and schedule your free consultation to talk about how custom software can help your business.